Previously on 10 Albums in 10 Days. Ooh, I love Hessian Peel. Hey guys, it's me with a microphone here. Welcome back to 10 Albums in 10 Days. This is episode 6. Definitely going to be the heaviest episode so far because today's episode is sponsored by Meshuggah.
Meshuggah for the heaviest of times. Meshuggah for when 7 strings just aren't enough. Meshuggah for when standard rhythms just aren't enough.
Meshuggah was my first introduction to 8-string guitars, which at the time I thought was just a ridiculous concept. Surely 6 strings should be enough. Fine, I'll push it to 7. But really? Do you need 8? Okay. But boy, was I wrong. I have no idea how I found Meshuggah. I think it was through YouTube recommendations, but what I do know is that for an absolute fact, it began with a music video for Bleed. And was I absolutely blown the fuck away by it? Yes, I was. The song itself has been talked about to death by other YouTubers and all that sort of stuff, so I'm not going to go into it. And Obson, the album, isn't the focus of this particular video, although it could make it onto this list. So with that in mind, I won't say too much about Bleed, but holy fucking Christ, that song is so good! Once I purchased Obson, the album, I knew I was onto something good with Meshuggah, so I also purchased Catch 33, which as well is an incredible album. It's basically one song, the entire album, which is the vocalist Jens Kidman, which I think I'm pronouncing correctly, has a very distinctive sound to his screaming. If I tried to replicate it, I would just violently rip my own vocal cords out. It sounds so aggressive, yet almost every word is very distinguishable, something that I struggle with most vocals. I don't know why. It's just something that I've never been too good at. Clarity and screaming is something that I value quite deeply with my metal music. It's something that I touched upon on the Gojira episode. I have a particular disdain for bands that are just completely incoherent. Anyway, shut up, Lee, with your brand new haircut. Humble brag! And talk about Koloss. Koloss. However you pronounce it. What can you say about a Meshuggah album that you wouldn't also say for their other albums? Basically everything they produce is essentially the same in that they deliver constant 4/4 beats but with polyrhythms and all sorts of other shit involved that just make it mind-boggling. However, in my humble opinion, I think Koloss delivers something unique in that each song is different from the one prior to it. I'm not too technically minded and I don't really know enough about the technicalities around music to be able to talk about Meshuggah's music in great detail, or at least enough to do it justice. So much like Opeth's episode yesterday, this video might be quite short because I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about each song individually. With that said, every song on Koloss is absolutely perfect. I love how it doesn't even give you a moment to think about what you're getting yourself into before I Am Colossus comes crashing into your ears. So many bands, myself included, will start an album with something calmer and softer, which then like builds up or maybe explodes after the fact. Think the start of Battery from Metallica's Master of Puppets, Coil from Opeth's Watershed, like all of Trivium's albums. It wasn't something that I noticed until I started recording my own music. But I Am Colossus just says, fuck you, we'll go the way that I want to go, right? And then goes hell for leather from there on out. And then you don't really get a rest until the end of the album with The Last Vigil. We go from this trudging monster in I Am Colossus to this really fast-paced, almost thrash metal song in The Demon's Name is Surveillance. And it's with these faster songs that this album really piques my interest. And that doesn't really mean anything because I fucking love every song on this album. But the particular highlights for me are Demon's Name, The Hurt That Finds You First, and Swarm, which we'll get there. I'm not going to go song by song because I'll just be saying the same things for each track. But let's just say once again that this album is fucking brilliant. Not one song feels out of place, and not a single one makes me question whether I enjoyed it. With the album being so unrelenting, it can be maybe a little bit tiresome to go through this album, but I think each song changes enough to allow you to digest things differently, so it's not quite so difficult to get through. The outro of The Incredible The Hurt That Finds You First is basically the exact center of the album, and that allows you to sort of reset before you have to experience the second half of the album. It picks back up with the intro to Marrow, and then goes on to the longest titled song on the album, which is also the longest song on the album. And the title always escapes me, so I'm going to have to read it from the script. Break those bones whose sinews gave it motion. Then we get what I think is my favorite song on Koloss. I think it is. We get Swarm. To this day, I seriously cannot fathom how they managed to write a song that sounds exactly like a billion flies devouring a corpse. It just boggles my mind. The frantic and almost random guitar parts with the pulsing and continuous drumming. The guitar solo is absolutely just a recording of a bunch of flies going fucking mental. I will not accept any other reason for this. You cannot change my mind. That's the only way that they did it, and it's fucking spectacular. Then we get Demiurge, which has this sexy fading outro, which leads into the last song, The Last Vigil, which allows us to reflect on what we've just gone through with this fucking amazing album. Koloss and Meshuggah in general are not for everyone by any means. They introduced me to the djent style of music, moving on to bands like Monuments and even Cloudkicker somehow, the latter of which will be on this list later on. My taste in music recently has changed and sort of diverged away from the style that Meshuggah have. A certain musician who we'll be getting to later on has sort of given me a different desire from music. What I wanted to say is different now, which is why I found it quite difficult to get into their newest album, The Violent Sleep of Reason. That being said, I love the song Clockworks. It just keeps on f***ing going. You think it's going to finish, and then another riff starts. It just... It's incredible. Anyway, that is episode 6 of my 10 albums in 10 days. Check back tomorrow for episode 7, of which it will be a different band, humble brag. Let me know what you think of Meshuggah and Koloss down in the comments below. We'll have a wee discussion about it. Here is the outro screen. There is a playlist to the rest of the 10 albums in 10 days. There's also a video that YouTube wants to recommend to you specifically. Stay safe, wear a goddamn diggly mask, and have a great rest of your day.